Righty, let me begin by welcoming everybody today and extend my appreciation on behalf of the City of Hawthorne and the Veteran Affairs Commission to this event on Veterans Day of 2016. Our turnout is very respectable, very encouraging, and very gratifying. And I really thank you for being here. You've all picked up a program when you entered, so you have some sense of the flow of what's going to happen today. So I'd like to actually begin that by beginning with the posting of colors, which will initially be done by Vietnam Veterans of America, the Chapter 53 South Bay Honor Guard. They'll be followed by the Hawthorne Police Honor Guard, who will also post additional colors. So let us begin by having the colors posted. Post the colors, please stand.
Call in. Carry colors. Forward. March. Mark. Time. Hold. Right face. Post. Colors. Face. Treesland. Ours. Order. Arms. Left. Face. Forward. March. Left. Post. Colors. Reason. Post. Order. March. Left. Face. Forward. March.
At this point, I would ask you to remain standing, where we will conduct the Pledge of Allegiance. For those of you who are veterans, you can render the hand salute as authorized by Congress. If not, then please place your hand over your heart. Commissioner Carol Steinhauer will lead us in the pledge.
Hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're now going to have the national anthem sung by Commissioner Kyle Orleman, who will lead us in the Star Spangled Banner.
Please join me. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Please, I'd ask you to take your seats. And I believe that it is appropriate, as a somewhat formal military ceremony, that we recognize the veterans of Vietnam Veterans of America, South Bay Chapter 53, the Hawthorne Police Honor Guard, Commissioner Orleman for her vocal skills, and Commissioner Steinhauer in leading the pledge. So applause is very welcome here. Next in our program is the wreath ceremony, where we will have a variety of agencies, veteran service organizations, present a wreath in honor of Veterans Day, which will be placed on the stage. We'll begin with the Veteran Affairs Commission wreath. Commissioner Ken Lester and Commissioner Robert Leon will present the wreath. We'll now have the Vietnam Veterans of America, South Bay Chapter 53, Kirk Gillette, the VP, and Commissioner Kyle Orleman will present their wreath. We'll next have the VFW and the VFW Auxiliary, Post 2075, Commander Roger Morrissey, and the Ladies Auxiliary, Christine Bloomberg. And now we'll have American Legion Post 314, Commander Greg Forstall and Teresa Sella will present their wreath. Thank you to all the veteran service organizations for presenting the wreaths in honor of Veterans Day today. A departure from last year's program for those that were here, something that is very symbolic and meaningful, is the addition of the POW MIA table, which is right here on my left. It has very special significance, and it is generally rendered at many military events as part of the actual ceremony. So I'm going to ask our first Veteran of the Quarter, also Veteran of the Year for the 62nd Assembly District, Dennis Wild, to come up and talk about the significance of the POW MIA table. Dennis.
Good morning. I would like to recognize our POW MIAs by calling your attention to this small table which occupies a place of honor in the front. I know that most of you cannot see the setting here. I encourage you to afterwards come up when you'll fully understand what each item means on this table. It is a set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. They are referred to as POWs, MIAs. We call them brothers and sisters. They are unable to be with their loved ones today, so we join with them in this humble tribute. This table, set for one, is small, symbolizing the frailty of one prisoner alone against their oppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolizing the purity of their intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single rose displayed in the vase reminds us of the family and friends of our missing, who keep the faith while awaiting their return. The red ribbon tied prominently on the vase reminds us of those who are not with us today. A slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. Salt sprinkled on the plate reminds us of the countless fallen tears of the families as they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot toast with us today. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in our heart to light the way home, away from their captors and to the open arms of a grateful nation. In lieu of a toast, please, sometime today and in your own way, take a moment to honor America's POWs and MIAs and to the success of our efforts to account for them. Thank you.
At this point, I did want to recognize a number of our guests. Last year, we had probably 5 to 10 distinguished or invited guests. This year, there are approximately 30 or so guests that I want to recognize. So if you just bear with me for a moment, I'd like to introduce the people who are sitting here in the first 3 rows. Our keynote speaker, who will have a separate introduction here in a few minutes, Congresswoman Maxine Waters, who's been an incredible supporter, has been to every event we've had, and is a friend of the veteran, is our guest of honor today. LA Air Force Base Commander of the 61st Air Base Group, Colonel Charles Roberts and his wife Jenny have joined us today. The Deputy District Engineer for the LA Corps of Engineers, Major Scotty Outen. On this side, we have representatives of our City Council, Mayor Pro Tem Angie Reyes English, Councilman Nilo Michigan in the back, Councilman Hadar Awad, and Councilwoman Olivia Valentine. I'd like to introduce in the second row our Chief of Police, Chief Bob Fager. From the LA Sheriff Department, South LA Station, Captain April Tardy. From Engine Company 161, Captain Ernie Lopez. He is also here with the Engine Company and Paramedic Company 161 as well, who are in various spots around the audience. I want to introduce our first veteran of the quarter who just spoke, Dennis Wild. Dennis went on to become the Veteran of the Year for the 62nd Assembly District, sponsored by Assemblywoman Autumn Burke in Sacramento. For those of you that haven't had a chance yet, in the back of the room in the far corner is a table that is set up with a variety of memorabilia and mementos, including Dennis's recognition in Sacramento, and I encourage you later on to take a look at that. We also have our second current Veteran of the Quarter, Jerry Nibel. Jerry is here with his wife, Catherine. Jerry received this award in July, and I will allude to just some of what Jerry did as a World War II veteran. His proclamation, as is Dennis's, is back on the table, and the proclamation essentially says that Jerry was recognized for a number of heroic acts, and in World War II, when he landed on D-Day at Omaha Beach as a tanker, he observed a British tank fired upon with a rocket, and in essence, he got out, crawled under the tank, the British tank, released the hatch, and let the 5 crew members or tankers out, saving their lives. For that act, he received a designation of the Military Medal from the Queen Mother after flying over to Europe after the war in General Bradley's plane. Pretty distinguished achievements for a Hawthorne veteran, so thank you. Let me also thank a variety of our sponsors who, through their help, allow us to both provide food, drink, prizes that you'll see back there that we'll award. And let me begin with Century Housing, one of our gold sponsors. A gold sponsor is somebody that's donated essentially $500 or more. We have Andrea and Cynthia sitting back there from Century Housing. Southern California Gas, another gold sponsor, with Denise Campos. We have from SpaceX, who's also brought some prizes, we'll be raffling later, Lillian Haney, who's here with us as a silver sponsor. Ashley Adams from Jersey Mike's. I don't see you, Ashley. There you are. Another silver sponsor who's helped donated the sandwiches you'll see later. Dolores here? Dolores Brinkley from Integrity Products. Many of the items you've seen, from the keychains to a variety of other items, are courtesy of Dolores, and she has helped supply us with these gifts both last year and this year. Thank you, Dolores. Let me not forget the veteran commissioners, all volunteers here in the city of Hawthorne. The Vice Chair, Kyle Orleman, who you've already heard and seen. Commissioner Carol Steinhauer, all the way in the back. Commissioner Ken Lester in the back. Commissioner Robert Leon in the back. All of whom are in the back because I didn't save chairs for them. I am, by the way, Neil Gaffney. I'm the chair of the Veterans Commission in Hawthorne, and we do some amazing stuff, which over time you will get to see It's not just a social event like this. So we're extremely proud of what we bring to Hawthorne, and we get incredible support from everybody, not just veterans, but the city council and a lot of leadership. So thank the commissioners. Veteran Service Organization officers, Kirk Gillette, Vice President of the VVA South Bay Chapter 53, presented the wreath. Roger Morrissey presented the wreath for the VFW Post 2075. And Greg Forstel, American Legion Post Commander 314. I'd also like to point out we have a few sponsors that couldn't be here today. Very generous gold sponsor from Costco. Obviously, they're busy working, so they don't have attendance today. Our support from Wounded Heroes and Mike Toledo, many of you know. Sam Pena from Republic Services, also another generous silver sponsor. And the Hawthorne Police Officers Union, also a silver level sponsor. So thank you all for helping support this event. I would now call your attention to your program, which deals with the significance of Veterans Day. And on the left-hand side of your program, it talks about the history. And I'm going to take a moment to go through that because I believe it's very significant. It began as what's known as Armistice Day, and most people who are probably 60 or 70 years old or older know it is Armistice Day. Commemorated every day on 11 November, and it marks the armistice signed between the Allies of World War I and Germany for the cessation of hostilities on the Western Front of World War I, which took effect at 11 o'clock in the morning, the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month in 1918. The date was declared a national holiday in many Allied nations to commemorate those members of the armed forces who were killed during the war. Most countries changed the name of the holiday to honor veterans of that and subsequent conflicts. The United States chose All Veterans Day, later shortened to Veterans Day, to explicitly honor military veterans, including those participating in other conflicts. In many parts of the world, people observe a 1 or 2 minute moment of silence at 11 a.m. local time as a sign of respect in the first minute for the roughly 20 million people who died in World War I, and the second minute to those who were left living behind. Veterans Day should not be confused with Memorial Day. Veterans Day celebrates the service of all military veterans, while Memorial Day is a day of remembering the men and women who gave their lives and those who perished in service. So a very significant day, probably from a standpoint of somber, reverent, this is the day among military that is probably most respected. Many people work still today. My wife, for example, has to work today. So while it used to be a major national holiday for all people years ago, it's now only in certain companies. I appreciate you taking the time to come today. If you took time off from work, which I've done every year to honor this day, I really thank you. That said, it's very close to 11 o'clock. So we're going to accelerate the clock here just a minute. I tried to hit 1100 hours closely, so I think I've got 1057 hours right now. So we will do our moment of silence, if you will, our minute of silence right now. So please bow your heads. Thank you. Our next slot on the program is for our guest of honor, and I'm going to read a little background for those of you that may not be familiar with Congresswoman Maxine Waters. After her keynote address, we're going to slightly change the agenda and go to a special event that has been coordinated over the last few days, where we will be asking all Vietnam-era veterans to come forward. She will be presenting a special memento as part of that effort that's been ordained and approved by the Department of Defense to recognize all Vietnam veterans as we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the war. Congresswoman Maxine Waters is considered one of the most powerful women in American politics. She has a reputation as a fearless and outspoken advocate for women, children, people of color, and the poor. She was elected Tuesday to a 14th term for the 43rd Congressional District, which represents Westchester, Playa del Rey, Gardena, Hawthorne, Englewood, Lawndale, Lomita, Torrance, South LA, and many other communities, just to mention a few. She serves as the ranking member of the House Committee on Financial Services and is also a member of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and member and past chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. As a National Democratic Party leader, Congresswoman Waters has been highly visible in party politics and has served on the Democratic National Convention Committee since 1980. She has used her skill to shape public policy, and among other achievements, she secured $10 billion in loan guarantees to cities for economic and infrastructure development, housing, and small business expansion, as well as creating a center for women veterans, among other things. Another priority is expanding access to health care services. She's the author of legislation to expand health services for diabetes, cancer, and Alzheimer's patients. Representative Waters continues to be an active leader in a broad coalition of residential communities, environmental activists, and elected officials that aggressively advocate for the mitigation of harmful impacts of the expansion plan for LAX. Personally, Congresswoman Waters was born in St. Louis, Missouri, the fifth of 13 children raised by a single mother. She began working at 13 in factories and segregated restaurants. After moving to LA, she worked in garment factories and attended Cal State LA, where she earned a Bachelor of Arts degree. She began her career in public service as a teacher and volunteer coordinator in the Head Start program. She is married to Sidney Williams, the former U.S. Ambassador to the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. This is an excerpt of a biography that I had a chance to review the last 2 days. Her accomplishments are nothing short of amazing. And I just wanted to provide a brief highlight of some of what Congresswoman Waters has done. And always a friend to the veteran, so please welcome Congresswoman Waters.
Good morning. I'm pleased the elections are over, and I thank you for your support. Thank you so very much. And so we're here today at this very, very special occasion, and I would like to say, not only to Colonel Gaffney, but to all of the veteran service organizations, to all of our special officers and guests, to our special Veteran of the Year, to POW MIA, who certainly are not with us but will not be forgotten, and certainly to the members of the City Council and the Mayor of the City of Hawthorne. Thank you for this invitation. I appreciate the opportunity to participate with you here today, and I want to do a special shout out to the Hawthorne elected officials, and especially Olivia Valentine for the establishment of the Veteran Affairs Commission. Please give them all a big round of applause. So thank you, Colonel Gaffney, for the kind introduction. I'm delighted to be here with you all today as we honor the service and sacrifices made by our nation's veterans and their families. I would also like to acknowledge and thank Colonel Gaffney, not only for inviting me here today, but for all of his hard work and for the hard work that he's done with veterans in our community as chair of the Hawthorne Veterans Affairs Commission. He has been so committed and so dedicated. Please stand while we give you a big round of applause. And I want you to know I complimented him when I first came in because he looks so good in uniform. As a nation, we have a hallowed duty to the men and women who serve in our military. Our obligation to care for them when they are abroad is as important as our responsibility to welcome them back home from the battlefield. Today, we're still gaining a better understanding of the many challenges veterans and their families face following their service. In LA County, the population in homeless veterans has increased dramatically despite an overall reduction in homelessness nationally. And while we are targeting homeless veterans in the region through improved strategies and better aligned resources, more has to be done to end homelessness across all populations. Access to quality health care and protection of veteran education benefits are also issues that I take seriously in Congress. We must ensure veterans a system that serves them and their families with high quality, innovative care. Too many are falling between the cracks, facing long waits at the VA, suffering under the weight of mental illness without the help they need. The statistics themselves are alarming. A recent VA study continued to demonstrate a mental health crisis among our veterans, where 20 commit suicide every day. Veterans only make up 9% of the American population, yet they account for 18% of suicides nationwide. 70% of those veterans are not regular users of VA services. PTSD among veterans does not discriminate. It affects service members across all ages, races, and genders. In the next Congress, I will continue to tackle the obstacles facing veterans in need of help. My bill, the Veteran Mental Health Defense Act, prioritizes medical professionals and medical students with training and skills to treat veterans with PTSD and traumatic brain injury through the National Health Service Corps, a program which currently enlists over 10,000 medical professionals and students to deliver much-needed health care all over the country. Many of us have also been witness to the deceptive and fraudulent practices of the for-profit college industry, of the hundreds of thousands of students who have been affected by school closures. A large population of affected students are veterans who have used their earned benefits from the VA and Department of Defense to pay living costs and tuition. In most cases, these benefits cannot be restored in the event of fraud. We have come a long way in curbing predatory behavior in this industry. The Department of Education's latest for-profit college regulation implements a policy I have advocated for my entire public service career. Institutions of higher education are now prohibited from including mandatory arbitration clauses in their enrollment agreements. Students who have been defrauded or been affected by other illegal practices by their schools can now seek justice through the courts. Many of you here today are also aware of the recent outrage across the country when almost 10,000 soldiers, many of whom served multiple combat tours, were ordered to repay large enlistment bonuses after a federal audit discovered overpayments and paperwork errors by the California National Guard. While the oversight and response to the scandal was egregious and unfair to our veteran families, I commend Secretary Carter for suspending the Department of Defense's effort to recoup these bonuses from soldiers who accepted them in good faith. I maintain a steadfast commitment to work with my colleagues to ensure soldiers are protected from undue financial strains and to uplift service members for their distinguished service to the nation. On the battlefield, the military pledges to leave no soldier behind. As a nation, let it be our pledge to leave no veteran behind. Once again, I salute and thank each of you for your service to the country. And now, with the permission of Colonel Gaffney, the Hawthorne Veterans Affairs Commission and the VFW Post 2075 would like to do something special as part of your Veterans Day event here in Hawthorne. Some of you may be aware that the Department of Defense has created a 3-year program entitled the United States of America Vietnam War Commemoration. Its stated purpose is to recognize, thank, and honor United States military veterans who served on active duty during the Vietnam War period. They have defined that period as November 1st, 1955 to May 15, 1975, regardless of location served. In my opinion, recognizing our Vietnam veterans is long overdue, and the 50th commemoration is an opportunity to help make up for many years of neglect. Those of us who were around during Vietnam, we're telling our age, remember all too well how divisive and controversial the war was here on the home front. The long, ugly conflict often separated friends and families, both physically and politically. It unfortunately created divisions which have taken years to heal. Too often, our service people came home to a country and communities which were totally conflicted about the incredibly difficult experience we had asked our young people to endure in a country far, far away. The point of this 50th-year commemoration, however, is that no matter what we may have felt about the war, we should honor and acknowledge the sacrifice made by our veterans who answered their country's call and served to the best of their ability. It is also the commemoration's intent to acknowledge and express appreciation for the sacrifices of your families made, both during your enlistment and over the many years since. While it is merely a small token of our appreciation, we hope this Department of Defense official Vietnam veteran lapel pin will be worn with pride. And we hope the certificate of special recognition we're presenting to each veteran will be something you will be proud to display at home and share with your families. So with that, I'd like to ask Vietnam veterans here today to please come forward. All Vietnam veterans here today, please come forward. Stand to your feet and give them a big round of applause. Colonel Gaffney, where are you? Where'd you go? Oh, you're right there. Okay, but come beside me, please, please. Okay, let me describe the symbolism of the pin you're about to receive. The bald eagle represents courage, honor, and dedicated service to our nation. As one of the most recognizable and notable American symbols, it is emblazoned with distinction on numerous military insignia. In many Native American cultures, an eagle represents man's connection to the divine because they fly higher than any other bird. The blue circle around the edge of the pen matches the canton of the American flag and signifies vigilance, perseverance, and justice. The circle shape and blue color also match the official seal of the Vietnam War commemoration, which is part of each certificate we will be presenting to you. The laurel wreath is a time-honored symbol representing victory, integrity, and strength. The stripes behind the eagle again represent the American flag. The 6 stars represent the 6 allies who served, sacrificed, and fought alongside one another in Vietnam, Australia, New Zealand, the Philippines, the Republic of Korea, Thailand, and the United States. And on the back of each pin, the message, "A grateful nation thanks and honors you," is embossed on the side closest to the heart of the wearer, along with the Vietnam commemoration's names. And at this time, and on behalf of a grateful nation, I'm proud to thank you for your service, your valor, and your sacrifice. And so, if we will start with the first pin to Colonel Gaffney.
Yes.
Okay, so at this time, we will present a certificate which each one will get individually that will be sent to them later on. But now we will present the pins to each. Colonel Gaffney, you have your pin?
I have my pen.
But it's an honor to have you stand with me and help present the pins. Thank you. If you will start at that end, I will meet you from this end. Congratulations. Congratulations. Where is the good health? Congratulations. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. I remember Vietnam. Does everyone have their pen? Would you please hold it up so I can see your pen in your hand? A big round of applause. What is it? Okay, all right, now I got it right. The highest serving service member in attendance, Colonel Kenneth Hewley, retired. Would you please come forward? So I'm presenting you with the Certificate of Special Recognition. Colonel Kenneth Hewley, retired, on the occasion of being honored with the Vietnam Veteran Lapel Pin during Hawthorne's 2016 Veterans Day commemoration event. I'm getting all choked up. And in recognition of your service in the United States Air Force during the Vietnam War, with deep appreciation for the sacrifice made by you and your family during your enlistment period and beyond, I extend thanks and a respect of a grateful nation. Thank you. Come on, let's hear the applause. Come on. You got your wife? Please have her come up. Ladies and gentlemen, along with this fine serviceman is his wife, Mimi. Give her a big round of applause. You know, we don't applaud the families enough who have to go through so much in order for their mates to be in service, and they have to endure so much. Let's give the families all a big round of applause. Colonel Gaffney, thank you so much for being here today and for participating with us in making this happen. You're a wonderful leader. We love and honor you for all of the work that you're doing, and I want to thank the Commission for understanding who you are, your talent and your leadership, and for selecting you to be our leader in this city. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Don't leave yet. So, let me put my command voice on and not use the mic. Congresswoman Waters has been asked by many communities that she represents to participate in events today. She's heading to another event, I believe, in Cardina. We have carved out the bulk of her time and the essential part of the morning for her to come and speak to us. She's committed to Hawthorne. You've heard the words. We can't thank her enough. This is the first time this particular event has been conducted, and I'll explain more about that here in a few minutes. But the Congresswoman does need to move on, so she's going to be heading out. But before she leaves, I want to present her with a slightly wet token of our appreciation. Thank you so much. We also have a logoed Hawthorne Veteran Affairs Commission like backpack, if you will, which we'd also like to take, and thank you so much. Thank you for coming. Gentlemen, if you would take your seats, and I can use the term gentlemen because there weren't females in that era.
No female, that's right.
Not more. So a few more words about what just transpired. This was something that has just been very recent. I received a call on Tuesday from the Congresswoman's office saying this opportunity exists and we think it would be very appropriate to do it during the Veterans Day ceremony. I totally agreed. We kind of revamped the schedule just a bit. The important thing to note is that you need to really have provided us, if you're a Vietnam era veteran, your name, your address, your rank, and your service, which is on a table in the back. There is a sign-in roster. It's highlighted in yellow, so that we can mail the commemorative certificates to you from the Congresswoman's office in the next few weeks. So if you were up here, please make a point to put your name on that list. If your name had been submitted previously, in the back, Carol is holding a sample of that commemorative certificate. The Congresswoman did bring a few for those she knew who would be up here. So there may be a certificate for you in the back already. Just take a look. If there isn't, please put your name on that roster so we get that in the mail to you. And there's also a fact sheet in the back which explains a lot of what she did about both the pin, the symbolism, and the intent of what just occurred. So again, thank the Congresswoman, who I believe is now left, who her next appointment, for supporting us in that regard. Okay, the next topic really relates to our Veteran of the Quarter. We began this process about 6 or 8 months ago. We began with our first Veteran of the Quarter, which was Dennis Wild, who we've also introduced, then followed by our current Veteran of the Quarter, Jerry Nibel, who's also here with us. Today we're about to install our next Veteran of the Quarter. And I'm going to read the proclamation, then ask the mayor and the city council to come up, present it to him, and then the mayor would like to make some remarks regarding that. Be it known to all assembled here and others who behold these presents that formal expression has been made as evidenced by this document. A proclamation honoring Colonel Kenneth R. Huey. Whereas the Veterans Affairs Commission awards the Veteran of the Quarter recognition to Colonel Kenneth Huey, and whereas He has served with distinction in the U.S. Air Force from enlistment in 1949 to his retirement in 1979. He held various assignments, including managing major space activities and flying fighter jets. His combat experience includes 564 combat sorties in Southeast Asia. And whereas in 1967, while leading a flight of F-4 Phantoms over North Vietnam, Ken was shot down by anti-aircraft artillery and taken prisoner. He spent 2,068 days as a POW, of which 14 months was in a one-man cell and 5 months in complete isolation. His wife did not know he was alive until after 3.5 years. She waited in hope that he survived and then waited 2 more years for his release. And whereas his military decorations include 2 Silver Stars, the Legion of Merit, 3 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 2 Bronze Stars, 30 Air Medals, and 4 Purple Hearts. And whereas upon his retirement for the United States Air Force, he worked for 15 years as a project manager at Hughes Aircraft. During his tenure at Hughes, Ken began the study of law and passed the bar exam before he graduated from law school. He then joined the Los Angeles City Attorney's Office in 2011 and now resides in Hawthorne with his wife of 61 years and practices criminal defense and is a writer. His memoir, Outlaw Lead, was written about his Air Force experience in captivity. And therefore, the Hawthorne City Council does formally join with the Veteran Affairs Commission, family and friends in the celebration of his recognition and pays tribute to his 67 years of dedication, achievement, and military service in the city of Hawthorne. Proclaimed this Veterans Day, the 11th of November, 2016. Ken, please come up.
Fact is, I probably didn't earn it at all. She, if it hadn't been for her, I wouldn't be here today, no matter what.
You guys, can all my council colleagues just stay up here also? I just want to thank the community for being here. Very important, recognizing our veterans. Today was a special touch too, with the recognition of the Hawthorne Quarter of the Year's veteran, Lieutenant Colonel Huey, Kenneth Huey. And we want to congratulate you, sir, for your service. You have a long history. I mean, how many, 30, 40 years? Very, very substantial amount of time. And you helped defend our country's interests, whether it was a punitive action, whether it doesn't matter. You answered the call. You served. It didn't matter what the politicians in Washington, D.C. said. You just answered the call, jumped on that plane, and did what you had to do. And unfortunately, you went through that life-changing experience for yourself. And you came home. And even if it's today, 50 years later, where you're recognized in such a formal manner with us, or through the federal government's issuing of a pin, I know that means a lot to you. And there's a lot of people that are living their life in liberty and where we're at because of your sacrifices. Thank you, sir. And I just want to relay that theme that I mentioned to you about service to our country without question, because all our veterans have been loyal to our country. They've trained, to defend our country, whether it's a punitive action, whether it's an action that doesn't make sense and people are serving. You answer the call, you're loyal. Everybody here has served in some manner or other. Some of you have actually jumped on that plane or that boat and traveled abroad to take care of business for our country. It's easy for the people now to forget. It seems like the World War II, I like to appreciate history, and I try to read. And it seems like in World War II, and that was like one of the last times where our country, like the whole country was just hurrah for the country who are defending our country. And it seems like every other theater that we operated in later and all the other expeditions that we had, it seems like there was non-involvement from our community. In fact, you know, the unfortunate return of some of our veterans from Vietnam, even Korea slightly, and even now, it seems like that apathy, like people do not, you know, feel it, do not recognize it, almost that sometimes disrespect our veterans when they should be focusing on our people in the federal government, which are the ones making decisions, misguided passions in the wrong direction. So again, I want to say that, you know what, I haven't forgotten. My dad is a veteran. He was here standing along all these brave young men and women that were up here. I'm proud. I know having my father in my house, hearing the stories of what he went through and what some of his teammates out in the Army and when they got shipped out and how they, you know, basically his company got mowed down and only like 5 survived. Hearing what kind of efforts they went through, you know, price of freedom isn't free. And, you know, as hearing my dad's story, hearing other individuals' stories, hearing your experience, Lieutenant Colonel, it's not free. So we feel it, and even if it's now the new millennials and the new generations that are looking back at history and seeing what it cost, and maybe if we're feeling out, we can appreciate it, and we honor you, all the veterans today, on this day. So thank you so much. I want to recognize my council member colleagues. I want to start off with Mayor Pro Tem Angie Reyes English. You guys want to say something? I'll ask them to make some brief comments. I'm going to start off with Mayor Pro Tem Angie Reyes English. Thank you.
Good morning. It is great to have all of you here today in our second annual Veterans Affairs Commission recognition of all of our servicemen and women here in our city of Hawthorne, and more importantly, throughout our nation. And it was good to see Congresswoman Waters here today to acknowledge that. And I just commend her for the efforts, and more importantly, recognizing all of our veterans here in Hawthorne and throughout the South Bay region in the areas in which she is the representative. I too have a son-in-law in the U.S. Air Force stationed in New Orleans. I have a nephew who's a pilot stationed in Gowan Field in Boise, Idaho. I also have a nephew that's out in sea today in the Navy. We know that the holidays are coming, and most of those that are serving today are not able to return home for the holidays. But just know that they're always remembered, like we are here today, in recognition of all of those that are being recognized. And know that we are proud here in Hawthorne to continue to do this on a yearly basis. And it just keeps getting larger and larger, and by having all of you here today, it's significant, and more importantly, it's an honor just to see all of you out there today here with us to recognize our veterans. And I just need to thank the board, Chair Gaffney, all the board members, our city council and leaders and our department heads for the efforts that they made to bring this commission to flourish. So thank you so much, and have a great day today.
Councilmember Nilo Michelin.
Let's give Colonel Neil Gaffney and the entire Veterans Commission a big hand for putting this together. Colonel, you said it's a respectable showing. I disagree with you. This is a great showing. Keeps on getting better every year, and we're bringing together World War II veterans, Vietnam veterans, Korean War veterans, and Gulf War veterans. So this is a great event. Keeps on getting better every year. And today we're just here to say thank you very much to all the veterans over there that sacrificed so much for you. We established a Veterans Commission. I proposed a Veterans Commission, and thank you, City Council, for putting the Veterans Commission together. We're trying to do things to help the veterans, but in the end of the day, we can never repay you for everything that you did. So thank you, veterans, very much for everything you've done.
Councilmember Olivia Valentine.
Thank you very much. Thank you to Colonel Neil Gaffney and the Veterans Affairs Commission for carrying out the vision of the city of Hawthorne. I was so filled with pride when I saw all the Vietnam veterans come forward. It has been my dream ever since we established the Veterans Affairs Commission to find out who all the veterans are and to bring them forward. And today I just saw so many of you. It just filled me because I really realized we had so many veterans in Hawthorne, and for years they went unrecognized. So I am just so pleased about that. I'm going to read an excerpt from President Obama's proclamation today in honor of Veterans Day, because I think it kind of gives you the feeling of what we all feel about who our veterans represent. The example of our nation's veterans set throughout their lives is a testament to the drive and perseverance that define the American character. Let us uphold our obligations to these heroic individuals and never forget those who paid the ultimate price for our liberty. On this day and throughout the year, may we sustain their lasting contributions to our nation's progress and carry forward their legacy by building a future that is stronger, safer, and freer for all. Thank you all, and thank you for coming. Have a great day.
Councilmember Hadar Awad.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to thank Neil Gaffney and the Veterans Affairs Commission for throwing this monumental event. I also want to welcome everyone to today's ceremony and thank you for attending. We're here today to honor our service members and to remember their achievements, their courage, and their dedication to defend honor, duty, and our country. And above all, to say thank you for their sacrifices. The men and women we honor today came from all walks of life, but they all share several fundamental qualities. They possessed courage, pride, determination, selflessness, dedication to duty and integrity, all qualities needed to serve a cause larger than oneself. Our gathering today, and that of the people gathering all across America, is a way to say we remember and we honor those lost troops and their families who have made the ultimate sacrifice so that we can live in freedom. Let us take this moment to remember the sacrifices of the brave men and women who have valiantly fought to make America the greatest nation on the earth. Thank you for answering the call of duty. You have made our armed forces the most respected in the world. I would like to end this with a quote. Valor is stability, not of legs and arms, but of courage and the soul. So I thank you for attending today. God bless you and your families. God bless our troops, and God bless America. Thank you.
So in closing, the City Council, along with the Seniors Affairs Commission, we thought that the Veterans Affairs Commission would be something that we could do locally to supplement all efforts to help our veterans, to tie the loose ends of things that maybe the state or the federal government hasn't addressed, and on a local basis, because we can all agree that there's some loose ends that need to be addressed. Finding people resources and addressing other things, other than just the main, one of the important things, which is recognition like we're doing today, but the practical end, because there's still people coming back from theaters of operation that need our help. And of course, all the people who are out there right now, homelessness being one of the still major issues. So I congratulate all my colleagues up here for making the decision to support a Veterans Affairs Commission. So thank you to our Veterans Affairs Commission through Lieutenant Colonel Neil Gaffney and the rest of the people who serve on that commission. Thank you again.
Just to be perfectly clear, I am a single member of the commission, perhaps, I get noted as the chair, but this is a team effort. There's 5 of us. We all pull our weight. And the ability to put on an event like this is not just a single person. So again, my thanks to the entire Commissioner, Vice Chair Oleman, Commissioner Steinhauer, Commissioner Lester, and Commissioner Leon. Okay. I have a presentation at this point for our Veteran of the Quarter besides the proclamation. So I'm going to ask him to come back up here. I would be unprofessional to suggest you should go buy his book, and I won't tell you it was a fantastic read, particularly if you are a Vietnam-era veteran, but I can tell you that I did personally read it, and it is quite a story. To be in captivity 2,068 days is just beyond incredible. So we have a gift for Colonel Huey. It's a memento box, if you will. This is a sample upon which the actual cover is designed, if you will, by Colonel Huey with what he'd like on there. And it's meant to hold mementos, jewelry, or a variety of other things. And this is our thank you from the Commission and the donors who allow us to do this for your Veteran of the Quarter recognition. And you now have the microphone.
There's nothing that I could add in terms of adding to the whole excitement and the feeling of gratitude to our veterans. So I'm not even going to try to do that. But I do have a couple of points that I'd like to make with you that I think are, and it goes like this. Why, you ask yourself, why are veterans different? What's different about a veteran? Well, we turn the clock back a little over 240 years ago when the founders of this country a lot of them were in Philadelphia, and they were wrestling over the problem of the proclamation of the Declaration of Independence, and they finally got the thing together. At first, the group wanted John Adams to draw it up, and he refused. And when the one who got the job, who was our second president, became our third president, Jefferson said to him, why is it that you're not going to write this thing? And he says, well, I'm going to refuse to because you're going to do it. And in the process of that, John Adams and others edited it and got it done. And when they got all done, these guys were all veterans. The entire country were all veterans then. And the very last sentence on that proclamation of the Declaration, after outlining why we were there, reads like this. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Okay, that was the first mention that anybody wrote down on obligations to one another or anything on the behalf of this country. And for a large number of years, we went on producing veterans without anything other than that and those elements of what made us great in the first place. Until 1955, when President Eisenhower directed the Department of Defense to formulate a document, a little booklet directing how military men and women should be. Then it was men then. And in the process of doing that, they finished the first booklet. I didn't bring my copy. The first little booklet was about 100 pages, a little pamphlet, which described how to implement these, what we call the Code of Conduct for American fighting men. Today, that Code of Conduct is called Code of Conduct for Members of the United States Armed Forces. because by 1958 we realized that women were also involved in this thing to the extent the Vietnam Wall wasn't up yet, but when it got up, there were 8 women's names on that wall. So there we go. When this thing first came out, it said this: I'm an American fighting man, fighting in the forces to guard my country. I am prepared to give my life in its defense. The 1988 version, that's the way it came out in 55. The 1988 version says in Article 1, I'm an American fighting in the forces which guard my country and our way of life. I'm prepared to give my life in their defense. There are 6 articles in this code. 4 of them are substantive articles which give you suggestions on how to behave on various kinds and circumstances during combat, if you're taken prisoner, and just how to act as an American fighting person. I just read you the first one. Now I'm going to read you the last one, Article 6. I will never forget that I'm an American fighting for freedom. I'm responsible for my actions and dedicated to the principles which made my country free. I will trust in my God and in the United States of America. It just makes me so proud to be in a room full and identified with people like that. All the veterans that are here today. Now, in 1955, when that document first came out, Admiral Arthur Radford was chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. In one of his speeches to the commission in Congress, and he made this speech in a lot of other places, he said, we wrote this document, and make no mistake about it, we wrote it for our military people, our military men. But also make no mistake about this, it should influence the intent and the way that people think, whether they're military or not. Okay, these 2 little notions that came from our declaration and from our thoughtful guidance to veterans that all veterans know all about, make veterans different. It doesn't really break my heart when I think about those who are not here. But I appreciate them, of course, and I hurt for them. But what really rips me to pieces is the missing in action. Those that didn't make it. I'm going to tell you a little war story, and then I'm going to sit down and be quiet. It's really hard for me to stand in one place and talk. Not long before I left Vietnam, on my first tour was a forward air controller. The weather was terrible, and very early in the morning, on a rainy morning, we got word from one of our outposts. We had communications, a small outpost with maybe 40 or 50 people out in the middle of no place. That was part of our pacification and occupation program. We still were feeling our way in Vietnam. This was in 1965. Anyway, they had lost a patrol. They'd sent out a dozen young men. And in the middle of the night, something terrible happened, and we wasn't sure what it was. The weather was kind of stinky. The 2 of us jumped in our little L-19s, O-1s, and flew in bad weather out to this outpost. There was no airfield there, but they cleared off enough space for us to land. We could land just about anywhere. And the idea was that we were going to try to search for these 12 young men. It just wasn't working. From where the outpost was, the hills started to roll, and wherever these youngsters was in the clouds. We hung around all day. And then as the day was coming to an end, we realized we could get in and out because we could follow a stream, And if we could see a few hundred yards, we could fly out. We flew in some weather like that sometimes. We wound up staying most of the day. Late in the day, one of our pickets spotted one of them and called in on an FM radio that one of the guys was walking down the river and headed for us. Well, in a few minutes he showed up. From the waist down, he was totally naked except for his boots. He still had all of his other gear, and he walked right up to us. He was all in one piece, and he told us what happened and how he got there. In the middle of the night, stuff really started flying, and it was every person for himself. Somehow or other, he got away from the fight. His pants were wet, so he left them hanging on a bush, and in all the big excitement, he wasn't about to hesitate to get dressed. He walked up and gave us that report. His 11 never showed up. We have a kind of a myth about our bodies, getting our bodies home. And it's just a shame when they don't get home. So there's 11 that we left to roam in the jungle, and they're still roaming that jungle. And I think about them all too often. Let's don't forget.
I learned early on that those you leave behind, spouse particularly, are those that have to carry the torch when you're deployed, when you're mobilized, when you're in war. And that certainly is true in a situation like this. Flowers can't begin to express our thanks to Mimi and what she endured in Ken's story. But it is a token of our thanks to you to be here today and what you endured in the course of the week. So at this point, the Vietnam Veterans of America South Bay Chapter 53 has something they'd also like to provide. Ken, I'm going to ask Dennis Wild to come up and make that presentation.
Well, Colonel Huey, I guess, I'm sorry, this table was meant for you, and I'm happy it worked. I'm welcoming you home. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm honored today to represent VVA South Bay Chapter 53 and giving you a lifetime membership to our great organization with the Vietnam Veterans of America, whose motto is that never again will one generation of veterans abandon another. And our mission is to reach out to all veterans of all conflicts, of all services, including the Coast Guard, and try to educate our men and women and let them know the benefits that they have earned. I don't have the certificate, but I do have a challenge coin for you with the Vietnam Veterans of America on one side and the Associate Vietnam Veterans of America on the other side. Welcome to our organization.
Thank you.
Okay, as we conclude the aspect of some presentations and awards, what we just presented to Ken a few minutes ago, again, for the generosity of our sponsors, these memento boxes are also being awarded to our first Veteran of the Quarter, Dennis Wild, and to our second Veteran of the Quarter, Jerry Knight. Okay, with that, the last thing we want to do before we get to our raffle and prizes is to recognize veterans across all eras, not just Vietnam. And for that, I'm going to ask Commissioner Ken Lester to come up.
It takes a lot of dedication to service, and I am really have great respect for the veterans that came before me and the ones on active duty and veterans after I retired. But I must say that my service ranged to 3 decades. And I never really, in the beginning, knew what I was going to do, but I kind of just fell into place, and I'm very proud of my service, and I'm very proud and have great respect for all veterans. And so with that, I want to start with our recognition. You can either raise your hand or if you'd like to stand, but I'd like to start with the veterans that served in the 1940s. Thank you for your service. Now I'd like to recognize the veterans that served in the 1950s. Thank you for your service. Now I'd like the 1960s. Now the 1970s. Thank you. Now the 1980s. Thank you. 1990s. The 2000. And the currently the 20 teens, you could call it. And I would like to also any active duty. Thank you all for your service.
One last presentation from Assemblywoman Autumn Burke's office, the 62nd Assembly District. Our Deputy Robert Pullen Miles would like to make a presentation.
Hello. Colonel Gaffney, Veterans Affairs Commission, service organizations, and all the vets here today, as well as Mayor Vargas and the entire City Council, and Colonel Roberts. I want to thank you for allowing me to be here on behalf of Assemblywoman Autumn Burke. This is such a wonderful event to recognize our veterans for all the dedication that they have and the sacrifices that they have made to this great nation, to make this nation such a wonderful place to live and to raise a family. This is God's nation. This is the greatest nation on earth, and we want to thank you for all of your services. We cannot thank you enough. But we just have a little token of appreciation on behalf of Assemblywoman Autumn Burke. You know, it takes a lot to put this type of ceremony together, and the Veterans Commission not only put this ceremony together, but they are here to serve the veterans community as a whole, not just to put the ceremonies together, but to bring resources to the veterans community as well and their families. And Assemblywoman Autumn Burke is going to partner with them in that venture. And so she is proud of the work that they have done. On behalf of Assemblywoman Autumn Burke, I would like to present the entire commission, the Veterans Commission, with just a little appreciation, a little certificate on behalf of Assemblywoman Autumn Burke. Yes.
I think some of the commissioners in the kitchen.
Okay. Some are in the kitchen, all right. And we know of the hard work and dedication it takes to pull off this type of event and to service our veteran organizations, our service organizations, all events here, not just here in the city of Hawthorne, but in the region. They rely on the services that's provided from the commission. So we just want to thank you on behalf of the Assemblywoman Otto Burks for this wonderful Veterans Day event. And it's the City of Hawthorne, the Veterans Affairs Commission, in honor of Veterans Day celebration, in recognition of your service, dedication, and honor for paying tribute to all the men and women who have served our nation. Thank you for your commitment to the well-being of our community. Signed by Assemblywoman Otto Burks. Okay, great. Thank you.
A couple of people I want to recognize, one is standing up there, city officials, our city clerk, North Huber, our city attorney, Russ Mayahara, Mike Collegian, I see you come in. I think Mike Collegian is in to Wounded Heroes. So again, city treasurer. Thank you all. It's now lunch. We have sandwiches, fried chicken, chips, and we've got 2 cakes from Costco. So hang out, eat up. Thank you all.